Hey everybody, welcome to another one of my mindfulness and manifesting videos. Today's topic is when others hurt us and applying everyone is yourself pushed out and mindfulness. This also answers questions such as why is my manifestation not working? What if a family member won't stop being mean? What if my SP is ignoring me? What if someone at work is being a jerk? And ultimately, all of those questions are really asking, why is this happening to me? Some of you are asking if you need to hunt for blocks or find your limiting beliefs. There can be a lot of confusion, even for those who aren't exactly new to manifesting and find themselves wondering, I don't get it. I affirm all day. I do my imaginal acts in a state akin to sleep at night. I dropped the seed and persisted. I've been living in the end and embodying the state of the wish fulfilled. I'm doing all the right things, working on my beliefs and self concept. I just don't understand. Why is this person showing up this way? Why aren't people showing up the way I imagine them to and according to my new beliefs about them? Hey, it's okay. I see you, sister. I see you, brother. I see you looking at your 3D mirror. You recognize it's your reflection somehow. It's yourself pushed out. You know this, but yet you don't understand how. Well, some of you are still taking some type of outer action to bring your manifestation about, or subconsciously still looking at the 3D for some type of validation or confirmation for movement or birds before land or signs, forgetting it's just your reflection and the other person is not separate from you. Some of you understand that to some degree on an intellectual level. You've heard it enough, you've repeated it to yourself and others, but don't really know how to apply it or what it really means. And you're to a point of just staring hopelessly at your person in the reflection, thinking you should just accept the 3D and just quote unquote let go. Though that's not what Neville Goddard meant by dropping the seed. Or maybe you misunderstand what is meant by reflection and everyone is yourself pushed out. Look at this woman looking at herself in the mirror. She's thin, but she doesn't see herself that way. Her reflection mirrors back to her how she sees herself, how she feels about herself, things she has accepted to be true about herself, and facts that are false, based entirely on her false perception. Maybe her memories, maybe things people have said in the past. But this larger person in the mirror is who she really knows and believes herself to be on a deep subconscious level, and it's what she sees when she looks in the mirror, so she thinks it must be true. I can relate to this. When I was 13 years old, I was quite large. I was raised believing lies that I was just bigger boned and denied my request to be in sports. So I was chubby and made fun of. And that was the year that Sir Mix-a-Lot's Big Butt song was really popular. And if you know the song, I can laugh about it now. It starts out, "Oh my God, Becky, look at her butt." Right? You guys know the song I'm talking about? Well, I remember kids sitting behind me in class changing the lyrics to, "Oh my God, Becky, look at your butt. It is so big." Well, that summer, I did my usual swim lessons and free swim. I swam twice a day. I was like the only sports I was really allowed to do back then. And I hit a growth spurt. No special diet. I actually ate Arby's burgers. And by fall, I had just naturally shed 30 pounds. I didn't realize I had, though. I wasn't mentally there. I could observe that my clothing sizes were smaller, and it felt good to see my family was wrong. I wasn't big boned after all, but actually a smaller person. I felt healthy, but psychologically, I still had the same feeling state. Well, I went to a different junior high, and all of a sudden, really pretty and popular girls wanted me to sit with them. But remember, I hadn't shifted my mindset, so I made assumptions from that old state that it could just be another joke, or even if it wasn't a joke, I just didn't trust any of them, so I turned them down. And it took a long time, well over a year at least, before I stopped overestimating even the amount of space I needed just to sit down. All because that was my perception, and I had not shifted out of that feeling state of feeling like a larger person. So I had ups and downs with weight even through college. I was the heaviest runner on my college cross country team, even though I was running twice a day, 2 hours a day. And then finally, in my early 20s, I dropped it and kept it off for life after putting to practice something I'd overheard on the radio, how Madonna had thought herself thin. I'd also discovered kickboxing and by then was also in ballroom dance and decided that's what my body really was, a dancer's body. I didn't heal any childhood trauma. I just accepted as fact that yes, this is who I really am. I'm really a smaller person. I'm not big boned. This is what my body looks like. When I think of myself, this is how I see myself. And I didn't even keep a scale, and I still don't, even now, because it wasn't about the weight, but the way I viewed my own physical appearance, the way I observed myself internally. Well, once I did that, I not only kept pretty much the same weight the past 20 years, even after having 3 kids, but my accepting myself allowed me to see others differently too. It allowed me to open up more and be more trusting of people seeking my friendship and relationships with me who I otherwise would have avoided or thought myself not cool enough for. I stopped judging others by their appearances. I stopped assuming they had bad intentions. When you change your inner state, you change how you perceive the reflection in the mirror. So, some of you know cognitively that the reflection in the mirror is not the truth, but just a reflection of what we have accepted as truth within us, but still doesn't quite register. So, you still end up hating the mirror, or hating what it's showing, reacting to what it's showing. So, let's revisit what it is first. Remember this slide from the last video? Well, it's not only your beliefs and inner conversations that are reflected back to you. It's also everything that you hold in your awareness, as well as your state of being or mood. So it's your assumptions, your memories, your observations, what you know or believe to be true based on your experiences, what you're perceiving with your senses, how you're feeling, and not just how you're feeling or thinking or believing about yourself, but others too, about life itself, and even about manifesting. It all reflects back to us. As Joseph Murphy and Neville Goddard both said, consciousness looks at all the contents of our mind and projects it out onto the screen of space. This is why Abdullah said that if he was discriminated against, it was because of the arrangement of his own mind. Abdullah taught Neville that he was the cause. That is why to always start with ourself. There's no one to change but self, he would say. Yet when someone wrongs us, hurts us, maybe bullies us like those junior high kids did to me, or is unjust, or showing up as the old story, it can be really hard to see ourselves as the cause. And just straight denying the 3D and persisting can feel like gaslighting ourselves, like touching a hot burner and then lying about the pain. The last thing you want to do is gaslight yourself, especially if your issue with another person is that your feelings don't matter to them, that they don't care about your feelings or prioritize you, etc. If you imagine you have a child or have taken care of a child and that child has an owie that needs a band-aid, so you give them a band-aid, right? Well, if you do not give yourself the same most basic consideration and care, it reflects how you feel about yourself. It reflects how you prioritize yourself. If you are a martyr, always sacrificing for others, putting others before yourself, it reflects that you do not feel worthy of that same care. All those feelings about yourself, including insecurities, low self-worth, get projected out and reflected back to you. Most of you have heard this from other coaches that if you say unloving things to yourself, then your SP and others will mirror that. If you think good things about yourself, they will too. And all that's true, but it's much deeper than that. In the other person's reality, it could have nothing to do with you. What they may be mirroring to you is your state of being. If you're looking to the 3D for validation instead of going within and instead of remembering that you are the source, don't be surprised if your person or loved one is also doing things for external validation, even if what they're doing in the 3D mirror looks completely different than what you're doing for validation. Ultimately, you're both seeking external validation. So, for example, since many of you are manifesting specific persons, let's say a guy is out sleeping with a lot of women. Well, he's likely doing that for validation because he's insecure and feels inadequate. You can affirm a new story about him all day. You can imagine a new version of him. You can affirm that he's confident, he's secure, he loves himself. But if you're feeling insecure about yourself, they will be too. Now, I'm not saying that if you feel insecure, you're going to cause someone to go sleep with a bunch of people. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that your state reflects, and it can reflect in a lot of different ways. If you're ruminating on the past, they could be ruminating too. If you keep replaying old memory of them or old story, they could be too. They very likely are. If you are angry with them or yourself, judging them or yourself, unforgiving them or yourself, holding them to that old story, then they are too, and they may not be angry at you, but at themselves. They may feel too inadequate for you, not good enough, ashamed of what they did or said or didn't do or didn't say, hung up on their own failures, think you're too good for them and deserve better, fear they're just going to keep disappointing or hurting you. These things aren't always things we think consciously, but sometimes are more feelings in the background we're not as aware of. That's why awareness is so important. If I'm feeling less than as a parent, for example, like I'm really not where I intended to be, or I really let my kids down, maybe I had intended to manifest certain things that just did not express yet, and I feel like a failure. I'll withdraw and isolate myself more. I'll be less present with them, which is the opposite of what I should do. But it's a behavior of which the underlying reasons all happen on the back end and end up being a mood. But it's subtle. It's not something I'm immediately consciously aware that I'm doing. It's only through mindful awareness practice that I realize, oh, interesting. Here I am noticing how maybe someone in the 3D withdraws and goes silent when feeling ashamed or not proud of their actions towards me. And yet here I am doing the same thing with my kids. See, everyone is just a messenger about what is happening within us. If I'm not being present in my own life, present with my own family, then it should not be surprising if I'm finding myself aware of another's absence, their lack of presence, because that is them mirroring me. You can affirm and imagine someone to be with you here now, but are you really able to get into the wish fulfilled and really feeling the enjoyment of their presence with you right now when you're not able to be present with anyone else or enjoy the present moment? I'm not saying this is the cause of every person who is avoiding you, not talking to you, ignoring you, distant, withdrawn, in no contact, etc. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your state of being reflects, and this is one of the ways it can reflect. Sometimes it's even more subtle than that, and we just don't even realize until hindsight looking back. And Neville Goddard talked about that, how he would look back and realize how he had planted seeds all along. Well, an example of this, and another story time here, one of the fields I used to work in was administrative law. And I once worked for a really terrible judge. She was awful, 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 dishonest, inconsistent, hypercritical, violated her own laws, just engaged in all this really bad behavior unbecoming of a judicial officer. And nobody would do anything about it. I mean, here I am, I'm supposed to uphold fairness to the parties. I'm obligated to the taxpayers. I'm trying to be a good public servant. And no matter how many complaints I filed, it was like nobody cared. So I went the conscious manifesting route. I tried to see her as myself pushed out. Remember how I said earlier that we intellectually understand things, but they don't quite register on that deeper level immediately. So I did imagine lovingly for her. I thought of picturing her on the beach, enjoying retirement, getting the heck away from me, leaving me alone. I imagined all of her medical paid. I imagined really beautiful things. Like I wasn't being mean about it. I just really needed her to get away from me so I get my job done, and so people weren't being, treated badly. And I had manifested things in people way before. I'm actually quite good at that. Yet here I was, having been a conscious manifester for 2 years, And I didn't understand why it wasn't working. Why was she allowed to escalate, and why the 3D projection was just not at all my imaginal activity, not my affirmations, not my beliefs. Well, she was mirroring me. Now, I thought at the time maybe it's because I'm more aware of her doing this and not as landed in my end, which could be too, but really it was my state of being. Now, obviously, I was not breaking the law. I was not trumping up crazy accusations against people. I wasn't lying. I wasn't committing her crimes, but she was mirroring a hidden aspect of myself. She was mirroring feelings about myself on a deep subconscious level. She was mirroring my inner critic, my inner judge. Well, when we suppress our feelings, our desires, remember earlier I was talking about how we don't want to gaslight, okay? Because that is deceiving ourselves. That's self-deception. We are lying to ourselves. We're saying we're okay when we're not. We're being strong and putting up a front that all is well when all is not well. When you deny yourself like that, you're going to manifest people in your life that also deny your feelings and mistreat you. So just because you have manifested really cool things also doesn't mean that you, in this present moment, right now, right here, live in a mansion, that you've already arrived, you're already a multimillionaire, you're problem free. No, you could have manifested some really cool, awesome things, even miracles, and yet still not have seen your deep heart's desires yet, because each manifestation is on its own time clock. And it's not fair to yourself to judge yourself according to appearances or by the fruit of what you have or have not already harvested. So, yeah, a lot of conscious manifestors place an unrealistic expectation on themselves to have arrived at a certain place within a couple of years of manifesting when, as I pointed out in my book, You're in Barbados, the master of manifesting himself, the mentor of Neville Goddard, Abdullah, had to wait several years. Let me repeat that, guys. Several years before he got his one burning desire to go home to Ethiopia. And yet, here we are, hard on ourselves when we're not manifesting like every single thing on our list that we've ever wanted. Like, we're living in the end. We know it's all already ours, but there are things that they're on their own timer. So that's what was going on with me. All my suppression of feelings, like I wasn't really who I claimed to myself to be, that I knew the law, but didn't feel like I was living it the way I should be. All that inner judgment that wasn't done consciously. I would have denied it. So in hindsight, I realized that after things got so bad, I was forced to resign. And then I realized on that deeper level what I already knew, but now I knew it even more, that no one is separate from us. Everyone is yourself pushed out. I had kept focused on changing the story about her, changing my thoughts about her, how I saw her, but I didn't change myself first, not on that deep level. It took someone playing the part of a terrible judge to help me see that judge within myself. And this wasn't just self-talk. I had really, really good self-talk. This was a deep inner feeling state that's subtle. So remember, Neville said that feeling is the secret. So if you feel judged, even on a deep subconscious level, you will be judged. If you feel unqualified for something, you may have people in your 3D who are unqualified. These are moods. Again, these are feeling states, and the people mirroring them in the 3D are just messengers telling us about how we're feeling about ourselves. So, quick interjection here that part of not gaslighting yourself also means not tolerating bad 3D behavior. Yes, it's a mirror, but you absolutely should set boundaries and really impress on your subconscious what you will and will not receive. Don't be a victim. Don't get in victim consciousness. You're better than that. Keep yourself safe. If someone's threatening harm or causing you harm, get away from them. Okay, that being said, though you may need to put up a boundary in the 3D mirror with some reflections, with some people in the mirror, we have to keep coming back to this life-changing outlook of continued acknowledgement of them as our mirror. We can't forget that. So what they're reflecting back to us about our hidden feeling state might look differently for them than for you. They may even say or do narcissistic things, but you have to remember that it's all still a projection from within you. It's all still a reflection of the contents of your own mind, of your own state of being. Nothing exists outside of you. There is no other that is separate from you. As Neville Goddard would often say, quoting William Blake, though it appears from without, it is from within. You've also probably all heard, as above, so below, and as within, so without. As the Bible says, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Well, the whole universe is within you. Something is only true if you accept it as true. That's facts about anything, guys, even in manifesting. Everyone is forced to show up according to your assumptions, beliefs, thoughts, feelings, experiences, observations, whatever you hold to be true, your memories, etc. Whatever is in your awareness is continually reflecting back to you all day long. So this reflection is happening all day long, but unfortunately, most people are completely unaware of it. So when really hurtful things happen, they may cognitively understand the teaching that whatever happened was somehow from their beliefs, but they get stuck there. They turn to self-loathing or on some wild rabbit trail trying to clean up aisle one, get rid of their blocks, or find the limiting beliefs. And I'm not saying to not do that, to not ever do that, but a lot of them are going around to coach after coach in circles, just running around in circles, and then want to give up altogether as their train wreck just gets worse and worse. And this is where mindfulness can help. One of the things I used to teach was how to talk to our feelings. If you're in the American school systems, you probably heard of social emotional learning and possibly even the zones of regulation. But this is much more than just naming our feelings. This is really validating our feelings so that we don't get trapped by them. Learning to accept them, but also let them go. The first step is to tend to them. So if you feel burned, if you have hurt feelings, you feel the other person is insensitive to your feelings, you feel others are dismissive of you, they don't care about you, they don't prioritize you, or maybe you were the one who said or did things you regret, or you regret things you didn't say or didn't do, what you felt you should have done. You feel bad or ashamed. Maybe you're withdrawn or hiding out. Or maybe you feel disappointed that the 3D is showing up so terribly. Maybe you feel like a fraud or imposter, like you aren't really the operant power after all if so many bad things show up. Or maybe you just can't seem to get out of the state you're in. Maybe you want to imagine something with all the tones of reality and fulfilling, but you're hurting too bad. It just hurts too much. Well, this is a way we can validate ourselves and shift the focus. Now, this is best done with the breathing exercise first, in my opinion. So what you would do is you would start with some basic breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, shoulders back. Inhale, hold it, exhale. And then you could use the video that I did earlier too, has a good example there. And then once you've relaxed and you're in that better space, you just imagine you are sitting on a sofa and there's a knock at the door. Oh, who could be at the door? I wonder who it is. Oh, well, it is your feelings. Well, don't be rude. Get up, go to the door, and invite them in. Invite all of them in. Check if there are any other feelings at the door, and no matter what state they're in, invite them in too. Yes, even the angry or hangry ones who need a Snickers bar. Tell them to have a seat, be a good host or hostess, offer them tea or coffee, and you don't have to agree with them or go along with their narrative, but give them the floor and listen politely as they say whatever it is they need to say to you. You can console them, comfort them, let them know their experiences are valid. Let's say you have fear in the room. Well, you can remind fear that courage, bravery, and the big feeling of safety are there in the room too. If you have anxiety in the room, you can have it take a seat next to peace and serenity. Give them a hug. Let them know they aren't alone, that you are right there. You are there for them and will always be there, that you are supporting them. You have their back. You aren't going anywhere. You always have time for them. They matter. You are talking to you here. You are holding you. You are showing up for yourself how you want to be shown up for and telling yourself the validations you need to hear. You could do a loving kindness meditation at this point too. Mantras like, I am loved, I'm safe, I'm happy, I'm calm, I'm worthy, I'm enough. And if you don't feel that you can say those, maybe there's some resistance, then you could change it to, may I feel loved, may I feel safe. Some people like to say you are instead of I am. I do that quite a bit myself when I talk to myself. So you can say to yourself, you are loved, you are safe, you are worthy. And you could also add, you are wanted, you're desired, you are chosen, you are cherished, you are worth it, you're amazing. Whatever it is that you need to hear, maybe even what you would have wanted the other person to say to you. So once you have validated your feelings and lathered on some self-love, you may recall the earlier video on mindful, gentle redirection. And this is where you're going to do that. Now that you've acknowledged your feelings, you're going to gently bring the focus back. Back to what? Well, some people use this as an opportunity for inner child work where you talk to yourself and hold your little you, which is very similar to what we just did with our feelings. Others use it to go straight to the news story about the other person. But all are ultimately about reminding yourself the truth of who you are, that you are the operant power in your reality, the truth about how you are there for you, the truth, the only facts you are willing to accept about a situation or the other person. It's all about your truth. Now, this is where I take a different approach than some because remember, while we want to validate ourselves and tend to our feelings the way we would want others to, we are still the cause. We are still the God of our reality. There's no God out there outside of us. There's no judging God. There's no one deciding whether or not we're worthy of our desire. Okay, we are the operant power. We are still whoever we are, who we are aware of. We are who we are conscious of being. So whatever happened or is happening in the 3D reality that triggered you is still only a reflection of the arrangement of your own mind. So just there's this difference between accepting yourself, accepting your feelings and validating them versus accepting that 3D reflection or the facts that are in that 3D mirror. I just see too many people in the community accepting the 3D facts as the way it is, this reacting to it instead of remembering who they really are. So if it's not the reality you want to experience, if it's not your end desire, then it might as well be fake news. So you can show that to your feelings and say, hey, that was just fake news. That's not the real news report. The whole accepting of the 3D is not how Abdullah taught. How did Abdullah teach? He slammed the door. He slammed the door and went within. He held a vision for Neville that Neville didn't have for himself yet. He didn't see himself as going first class yet, but Abdullah did. Abdullah taught to look beyond the lampshade. That's what he did for Neville. Look beyond the fake news and remember the facts that are what you decide that they are. If the 3D story is not your end, then it's not over. And you have to reassure yourself, validate yourself, remind yourself what the real story is. What the real story is about yourself, what the real story is about the other person, as if you are the director writing their script in this metaphysical theater, you decide how they will show up. And the truth about your story, about your relationship with this person, whether it's a romantic specific person, a family member, a friend, a colleague. As Neville said, you are God playing all the parts. even the director and the audience. It's okay if you cannot yet get into the full feeling of this truth. Don't force your feelings. What you're doing right now is you're gently redirecting to the truth and focusing on just accepting this truth, giving yourself the reassurance you need. If even this feels forced, then just do a mindful breathing exercise and an I am mantra that reminds you that you are the universe. God, consciousness, awareness dwells in you and is so fused with you that it is you. And as Neville said, this it is not an essence, but an entity. Trust is the key. Manifesting a lot, experiencing how the law works, getting used to it, all helps to trust both yourself and the process. So, after reassuring your feelings of the truth of who you are, who the other person really is, what the real story is that you've written, that you've decided as the operant power, then send them on their way. You aren't dismissing your feelings this way or suppressing them. Rather, you have given space to them, you've made them feel heard, and that alone diffuses them. Thanks for watching my video. If you like this and want more, stay tuned. My app had a bit of a delay as I had to go through some licensing processes, but we'll be out soon with more courses like this, and also we'll include some additional free training videos too. So stay tuned.